I got pregnant in college when I was 19. Her father was in the same position. Before doing the deed, I told him I would keep the baby if anything were to happen. He said he understood. He refused any contact with my baby or responsibility when I got pregnant. He took things further by telling my friends and his family that I planned the pregnancy to trap him so they wouldn't judge his actions. This was untrue. He paid mandatory child support, but it wasn't much. It was hard, but I love my daughter, Teen, and wouldn't change a thing. She's wonderful and smart, and she's my whole world. He contacted me on Facebook, saying he wants to be in his daughter's life. He's married now. I did some stalking online. His wife has frequently posted about her infertility struggle. I was against it because he's had no part in her life. I had to drop out of college, work 2 jobs, endure the sleepless nights as a baby, and raise her. It was me that kept her belly full and kept her warm. He couldn't care less. I endured my friends turning against me and his family's harassment and the judgment of society for being a young mom. And now that he wouldn't be sacrificing his young years, he's finished partying, he's got his degree and job, and his wife can't give him kids to complete his picket fence life. He wants the kid I raised for him, knowing he doesn't have to do any work other than pick her up occasionally. I told him my thoughts, and he got mad, saying that I chose to have a baby, not him, which tipped things over for me. I asked him to prove he thought about her, i.e. a college fund he's paid into for a while, with her in mind, or car money. He did not, proving he only cared when he couldn't make more kids. I spoke to my daughter, but I told her the type of person her father is. I told her he is nothing for her, and I was honest about his wife being infertile, so he's reaching out. I told her everything. I told her to think about it, and I said I'd support her knowing him, but I affirmed he's not a nice person, and his intentions are not where we would want. She chose to not know him. After I informed him, he got mad. He said I ruined his chance to know her, that I'm denying her a father. I told him he was the one that did that. My mother told me I shouldn't have poisoned his image of him for her, that she probably feels rejected all over again, and she's probably hurting. I now feel like I've done wrong by her. Am I the idiot? Edit. If it wasn't for this infertile wife and lack of college funds or car money, showing evidence he had at least thought about her, then I probably wouldn't have said anything to her about what he's like. But to me, those were red flags. It's not poison if it's true. You are not the idiot. You're protecting your daughter from a potentially traumatizing and harmful situation. It is one thing for him to give up parental rights and for it to remain that way, but he treats her like she's some sort of trend of the month. What'll happen when he realizes she's a complex, multi-layered human with many thoughts and feelings, and likely many negative feelings towards him? I wouldn't trust him with properly taking care of an animal, let alone a child. As a guy who was raised by a single mother and with a deadbeat father who was never around, keep up the good work. It's hard enough being a parent, let alone in that situation. I would say one thing though, try not to let your feelings about him cloud your judgment too much. There is a small part of me that wishes I could have met him before he died, if only to see for myself who he was. And that part of me will never forgive my mom for denying me that. Your daughter may never get to that point, but for her sake and the sake of your relationship with her, don't stand in the way if she changes her mind and wants to get to know him. He may break her heart, but at least she can find out for herself. I mean, can you callously abandon your child and claim to be even mildly decent? People can change, yes. But I think the reason that OP didn't believe her ex could change was due to the lack of evidence that he actually cared about his daughter now. She's a consolation prize now, and if his wife gets pregnant, OP's daughter will return to the burner. Yeah, is it worth causing the daughter all the pain that could come from this? She's a teen now, and he hasn't shown he cared for her whole life. I suspect they might be looking into adoption, and adoption agencies would not be impressed with a man who has one child but hasn't invested any time or interest in her upbringing. On the other hand, he and his wife might think it could boost their chances to put on an active Parents of the Year. He selfishly only wants to be the fun dad when it's convenient for him. This dude and his wife are disgusting. My sister-in-law has kids a few years older than mine, and she was kind enough to keep some of their clothes aside to hand down. So we've graciously taken a lot of clothing over the years. Some of them end up as rags, some of them have been donated, etc. Well, this past month, she handed off a big bag of clothes for the summer. I sorted through the clothes, but they were unfortunately some clothes that I don't really encourage my kids to wear. To be clear, the thing that I don't encourage is clothes advertising something, a brand, media, etc. My kids understand this and know that the rule is that I will not buy them any of that crap. If they want to use their own money just so they can parade around advertising someone's brand for them, I don't stop them. And yes, their father and I model this behavior as well. My husband donates his company branded fleeces as soon as he gets them. Anyway, when my sister-in-law saw the donation pile had many of her offerings, she got mad. She told me that it directly insulted her and her generosity. I told her that the clothes will still get used by someone. She told me I was being draconian and snobby and that my kids are afraid to express who they are inside. I admit that when she said this, I did laugh because my son is one of those kids who goes to school with nail polish and does stuff like slam poetry and chalk drawing clubs. Well, that's the issue. Am I the idiot for donating some of the clothes for my sister-in-law all these years? Oh, and just to be clear, for clothing donations, we actually donate directly to a church in our neighborhood that does clothing drives. I think that's worth noting because places like Goodwill and the Ark have been marking up prices due to thrift resellers. You are the idiot. Why take clothes if you're going to just give them away? Why not just say, thank you for the clothes, but I think these should go to someone else? Also, your reason for your kids not wearing them makes absolutely no sense to me. Stop using your kids to express your worldviews. Their aunt was generous, and they probably would have enjoyed the clothes. Not only was it ungracious and rude to sister-in-law, but it's excessively punitive to your own kids to enforce this policy, even on items you haven't purchased. Also, she may have other people she can offer the items to or want to donate them to her organization or church. Same. I'm always shocked when I give someone something because they've expressed a wish to try it, usually a small appliance, and I ask them how they like it later and find they've given it away. I've usually given them the appliance because I rarely use it and think it would be better used by the person who expressed an interest in it. To find that they've given it away without asking me if I want it back is so odd and rude. I'm in a tough situation with my not identical twin brother, and I'm not sure if I was wrong. For context, my twin 19 male and I 19 male have always been physically different. I've always been more into fitness and caring for my body, while my twin has struggled with obesity for most of his life. Recently, I've been posting pictures on my Instagram, wearing nice suits and tight pants and showing off my body. My twin has become increasingly jealous of this and has made several comments about it to me in private. The other day, we had a family gathering, and my twin blew up at me in front of everyone. He accused me of rubbing my body in his face and being insensitive to his struggles with weight. I was taken aback and tried to explain that I wasn't trying to hurt him, but he kept getting increasingly upset. Finally, I snapped and told him that he should stop eating so much and stop being lazy if he wanted to have a better body like mine. Now I feel terrible about what I said. I know my twin has a lot of issues with his weight, and it wasn't fair of me to say those things, but at the same time, I feel like he's being unreasonable in his jealousy, and I don't know how to handle the situation. He kept complaining about his weight, so when I snapped, I felt like I needed to tell him the truth straight up so he could stop projecting his insecurities onto me. However, my mother, 58, was very upset with me and cried after the family gathering to tell me how horrible I was for shaming my brother publicly. My family's also blowing up my phone with messages saying I should apologize to my brother because he keeps telling everyone how upset he is. So, am I the idiot for what I said? Not the idiot. Don't dish it if you can't take it. He shouldn't blow up at you, assuming you won't snap back at him. You have no obligation to be sensitive towards someone who lashes out at you out of jealousy. While non-identical twins are genetically just siblings and therefore can have very diverse traits, it is, in the case of obesity, pretty much entirely down to lifestyle. I'm sorry, you all blame genetics. There's no magical metabolism that makes you 150 kilograms and your brother 50 kilograms. Metabolism is a minor factor in the equation. Obviously, your brother doesn't feel right about his weight, and in any other case, being mean to him would be unacceptable. But he went for you, and you clawed back. That's on him. This, 100%. Your mother cried and said you were wrong for shaming your twin? He was shaming you. So where were those tears? He started this whole thing and escalated it by blowing up in a public setting around other people. Yes, one may say that you should have had the composure and not said anything because two wrongs don't make a right. But realistically, only a saint would keep quiet in a situation like that. I know I would have blown it had someone done that to me. You're not in the wrong. Your brother is. Everyone's the idiot. Both of you were unkind and lashed out, but your parents suck for not seeking help for your brother sooner. If two children from the same parents generally eat the same stuff and only one ends up obese, I'd be very concerned for that child's health. Maybe he isn't active because he has a hormonal imbalance making him feel tired. Maybe his metabolism is out of whack. Or maybe he suffers from sleep apnea, and that causes all sorts of problems. He should see a doctor and a nutritionist, not because being fat is inherently bad, but because it could be a symptom of something else. If there's nothing wrong with him physically, therapy might help to either find an alternative to food as a coping strategy, accept his body, or both. Apologize for hurting him. Ask him to stop commenting on your body, and you'll not comment on his body again. My son, a young teen, complained last week that he shouldn't have to empty the dishwasher because it's women's work. My wife and I don't tolerate that kind of talk, so he's doing my wife and both his sisters' chores so he knows what women's work entails until further notice. Before we took his phone and gave it to his younger sister, we made him tell the family what he said. You see, my wife's family lives pretty far away, and my side is almost all women. My father's dead. My only siblings are my two sisters, and really the only male members besides my son and I are my sister's husbands. So we made him contact every one of them and explain what he said and why. His cousins have all pretty much disowned him, and my mother called me to say that we aren't welcome at her house, since she assumed incorrectly that we wouldn't go if he's not invited. The cousins have been blowing up my son's phone, calling him every name you can think of. Apparently, one of them even knew one of his friends, and through him, it's costing him most of his friends. My wife thinks I went too far by doing this and worries this will affect him long term. I think he deserves to lose his relationships, and the people in his life need to know what he said. He'll only learn if the consequences of his actions really hurt, and this was my way of doing that. Am I the idiot for making my son tell the whole family about his nasty comment? Yes, what your son said was wrong, and yes, he deserves some sort of consequence that teaches him that there's no such thing as women's work and men's work. But your family deciding to disown him for this comment is ridiculous. Calling him names is even more idiotic. You are the idiot for allowing your family to continue to bully him. You're not teaching him anything at this point. This happened in your home. You deal with it in your home. That's it. Why do you think the whole family degrading him would be a good idea? You nuked your son's social life because he complained about his chores? His comment was 100% wrong, but the punishment seems over the top. Also, for such a women's defender, why are you not listening to your wife? Yep, the dude is a young teen. He will say a boatload of stupid stuff for a while. But what is concerning is that, despite being surrounded by female relatives, whom I suppose he loves, he still manages to find in his heart to be misogynistic. Apparently, he wasn't raised that way. So what is he exposed to? How to undo this misogynistic brainwashing? I agree. Isolating him from family and friends will probably drive him further into the angry monsters on the internet. It will end up with the opposite results you're attempting to get. His comment and attitude were unacceptable and needed to be addressed with consequences, but you took it way too far. As a parent, you must allow him room to recover from mistakes. He's pretty young still. It doesn't sound like you actually like your son. My 22 female boyfriend came to our family party yesterday. We are your stereotypical large Irish family that does enjoy drinking when we get together. Nobody gets sloshed, but people are anticipating a pretty good time when we all get together. My boyfriend's family is almost the opposite. There's rarely alcohol at his family events, and if there is, it's usually like a glass of wine that someone may have, and that's it. It doesn't matter to me. I can have fun drinking or not drinking. I was with my boyfriend after the party, and he was on his phone with his mom in front of me. She must have asked him about the party because he was describing it. The things he was saying really embarrassed me, and I thought it made us look like heavy drinkers. Some quotes were, "Yeah, Mom, it was wild. Like 10 minutes after we got back from church." Or "Here comes Aunt Susie with a tray of shots for everyone." I was asked by 3 different cousins to shotgun a drink. It literally felt like I was at a college party, but with intoxicated old people and little kids running around. He was laughing it off and hung up the phone from his mom. I'm unsure if he knew that I heard the convo, but I just told him how bad that it made me feel. I told him he painted my whole family as alcoholics, and now his parents probably think less of me. He assured me that's not the case, and his parents aren't judgmental. I have met them, and while they're nice, I'm sure they'll gossip about this. I still think he was wrong. I told him that I wanted an apology, and I wanted to hear him call his mom back and tell her that he was exaggerating and that it wasn't true, even though what he said was true about the shots and the beer. Am I the idiot for wanting an apology from my boyfriend and more after he made my family seem like heavy drinkers to his parents? You are the idiot. He wasn't saying it in a judgmental tone, and what he said was 100% true. Calling his mom to then call himself a liar would just be bizarre and unnecessary and would make him look extremely weird. If people are doing the stuff he told, that is pretty intense for a family party. Y'all kind of are a bunch of drunks, and that's okay, but don't try to pretend otherwise. A screening questionnaire for problem drinking includes, have people annoyed you by criticizing your drinking? I think you ticked that one off easily. My in-laws are similar to your family, the only difference being that they're not ashamed of it. They love a big family get-together with a load of drinks and games and dancing, and everyone has a blast. Maybe ask yourself if you're projecting your own feelings towards your family. You said yourself that what he described actually happened. The way your feelings are valid, so are his. That's what it felt like to him, but it seems like he was describing this in a more jovial sense. At the same time, you're the one that appears to be passing harsher judgment on your family. Be proud of your family and stop trying to get your boyfriend to lie to his family. Update. Thank you to everyone who gave thoughtful insight and didn't come at me with a holier-than-thou attitude like you've never been drunk before. My defensiveness comes from not understanding that others may do things differently. I must respect the opinions of others, but at the same time, I enjoy my family and we have fun. I'm proud to be a part of it, so I will no longer be so defensive. I had my son way too young with my then boyfriend. We split up when he moved away for college and became an absent father when he returned for the summers. He became more active when he moved back after graduating, and we started doing 50-50 custody. I was 24 then and went to community college and got into sonography school, and I'm now an obstetric sonographer. During that time, it came out that my ex had never graduated and was in enormous debt from gambling during his time away. It explains why, with a full ride scholarship and a degree in a high-paying field, he was working at the mall. Once I got a job, I was able to upgrade my standard of living and provide a better life for me and my son. He's now nearly adult and entering senior year soon, and I want him to get a lovely gift to celebrate his birthday this summer. I asked him earlier this year when we talked about cars, what car he would want, and he said a 2023 Camry. While we're financially well off and don't struggle, I know he thinks buying a car is out of our budget, so he didn't suspect a thing. Here's the issue. I was speaking to my ex's sister, whom I am semi-close to, and I brought up the idea to her. She seemed excited, but then said I shouldn't. She said it makes her brother look bad since he doesn't have a car, and it would crush him to know that his son has a brand new paid-off car while he barely scrapes by. I told her that's not my issue and that it's not my fault he doesn't have his life together. He's 33 years old and still lives at home, doesn't have a car, and constantly switches retail jobs after spending weeks stretching out and watching orientation videos as long as he can. My son told me he recently spent almost 2 months watching Home Depot orientation videos and then quitting the first week on the floor. He doesn't want to work hard, so why should I feel bad? After a few days, she calls me and says she has an amazing compromise. She told my ex that I planned to buy a special gift for my son this summer and asked if he was willing to pitch in. He offered $80, and she's going to add another $80 for a total of $160. Then we could tell our son we bought it together, and he feels like his dad pitched in. This is for a $34K car. I told her no thanks, I have it covered, and she got upset and said that this could bring my son closer to his father since they don't have much of a relationship, and not to be a selfish idiot. Ever since I said no, she called me twice, calling me an idiot and saying I should either let him chip in or not buy it at all. Am I the idiot? Ha 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 ha. Is she kidding? Not the idiot. So she doesn't want her brother to feel bad that his son has a car and he doesn't? OMG, they need to grow up. He does not work to improve his life, it sounds like, and that's not for you or your son to feel bad about. And now they want to chip in a couple of $100s on a $34,000 car and try to make it sound like they bought it too? Please, your son is smart enough, he would see through that anyway. Also, if he isn't close to his son, that sounds like that's on him as well. Good for you for working hard to give him a good life. You don't owe them anything. Yeah, $160. How generous of them. Has this man even paid child support all these years? Oh, he was just busy gambling. Dad can suck it up and reap what he's sown. His sister's crossing a major line, thinking that $160 is enough. If it was a difference of even $1,000 or $2, I'd maybe entertain it. But what they're proposing is insulting to the work you've put in. LMFAO, $80? We got a big spender for an ex. The gift that you worked hard for, not ex, not his sister. It's your moment with your son. If dad and sister-in-law want a moment, well, they can work for it, as you did. I say again, your son is a smart kid. He sees your ex slacking. He's not going to believe for a minute that your ex significantly contributed to the car. Here's the other thing. Say son believes ex paid for half. The ex could turn around and guilt the son into lending him the car because he sacrificed so much to help pay for it. Go with the truth. It's the best option in the long run. Congratulations on your son's graduation, and tell your ex to buy some fuzzy dice or whatever, but remind your ex that these are a prop and he can't gamble with them. My wife is flying to see family for just 4 quick days this weekend, and the airport is 1 hour away. She returns back and lands at 10:30 a.m. on Independence Day. We have kids, and I want to take them to our town's wet parade and fun activities that morning for the celebration. We didn't make part of last year's celebration, and I was looking forward to this year's. She asked me to drop her at the airport, Initially, I was all for it, but then learning about her return time, this is where the disagreement began. Our family car is in the shop, but we have a loaner from the dealer. I asked her to think about driving herself so we could celebrate the festivities, and she instantly got mad. That'll cost us hundreds more dollars. Parking is $8 a day. The loaner isn't ours. What if it sells while I'm away? Then they wait. Why can't you support me through this and not be selfish? Who's selfish here? The festivities go on all day. I'm only asking for 2 hours. 9 to 3 p.m. is the duration of the festivities. These were some of the statements immediately made. She even said, my dad wouldn't hesitate to support his wife. I think her dad would shrug and say, just drive yourself. Am I the idiot because I want to take the kids to our town's 4th of July celebrations and would prefer my wife drive herself to and from the airport? Not the idiot. Airport pickup and drop off is a luxury. Either my wife and I offer the other if the stars align just right. Otherwise, we hire a cab. Loaners don't sell while they're being loaned. That's not how the process works. Parking wouldn't be hundreds of dollars. It would be $32. Having said that, you could pick her up by 11, be home by noon, and still attend the festivities for 3 hours in ideal conditions. Barring any flight delays, traffic jams, or small kids' meltdowns, there are a ton of things that can go wrong, especially with the kids in the car. Anyone with children knows that a 2-hour round trip on Google Maps doesn't equate to a 2-hour round trip in reality. It's unreasonable for the wife to make that demand when she can just drive herself with much less of an imposition on her time than it would be on his. I agree with every word. OP isn't some deadbeat dad wanting to hang out with his buddies on the 4th. He wants to take the kids to a kid-centric event. I'm a mom, and if I were in this situation, I'd tell my husband, have fun. I'll try to join you when I get home. In my honest opinion, the wife's being extremely selfish and not thinking of her kids or her husband. The wife needs to suck it up and drive herself. Don't back down, OP. You're the only one in this situation thinking of the kids. Take them to the parade and have a great time. This is so stupid. My girlfriend thinks I'm an idiot, so I want some second opinions. We're both quite serious tea drinkers, being from the UK, at least 3 cups a day. I have mine with 1 spoon of sugar. She has no sugar. We've been dating for a year now. In the first month of dating, things were great, and she made my tea properly. Then she slowly started to forget and made us both cups with no sugar. I gently reminded her that I like it with 1 sugar, but she wouldn't remember and kept making me non-sweet tea. So I decided to just make both of our teas going forward throughout the day to save the hassle. However, lately, I've been tired of having to make all this tea, and I asked her if she could make me a cup once in a while. I don't think it's fair that I make her nice teas and she can't return the favor. Today she made me tea with no sugar once again, and I got fed up and asked her why she doesn't add sugar to mine. It feels deliberate, to which she told me she forgets, and that's just how she does it, and I can add my own sugar after. So I said that wasn't the point, and moving forward, until she can make my tea nicely and take my taste into account, I will no longer be making her tea. I remember her little dietary quirks, and it just feels off that she won't remember this for me. She says it's stupid for me to go on strike about making her tea, and I'm weaponizing it, and it takes 2 minutes. However, I'm tired of making her perfect tea while she doesn't even put any effort into mine. Am I the idiot? People are going to get onto you with, it's just sugar, but I get your point. It's the effort. You take the time to remember what she likes and do that if you're making for both of you and she doesn't return the favor. It feels lopsided to you. Hence the question, you are not the idiot. Exactly. They've been dating for a year now. It's not like it's some complicated Starbucks order. It's 1 spoon of sugar. I'd honestly start making the tea, but putting 1 sugar in her tea as well. If she needs help remembering your preference for something as simple as tea, why should you go to the trouble of it? It's a simple lack of respect. If he wasn't British, I would have suggested that as well, but he's probably too darn polite for stooping to the level the rest of the world would applaud, Canadians probably being the exception. As an American who used to drink sweet tea, I cannot relate. LOL, we drink tea syrup in this area. No sugar? Get out, OP. You can have a tea war if you like. But the real question here is a fairly fundamental relationship question. Do you want to remain in a relationship with this person? My partner and I are typical sleep-deprived parents of 3 children, ages toddler to infant. I'm a stay-at-home mom, while my partner commutes for work, and depending on which site he's at, can be on the road for more than 6 hours a day. When necessary, he'll get a hotel room closer to the job site. Getting up with the children during the night has always been my responsibility. The logic behind this is that his sleep should be the priority due to the dangers of driving while drowsy. I've always accepted this without complaint. However, since the birth of our youngest, my partner's begun to accuse me of intentionally disrupting his sleep if the baby wakes him up at night. This past week, my partner had a few long days and was gone from early Wednesday morning until late Friday night. Please, no judgment, but I was so busy, exhausted, and overwhelmed during that time that I didn't get the opportunity to shower. I felt disgusting. It took ages for the children to fall asleep with the excitement of Daddy being home, but around midnight Friday night, I finally got the opportunity to treat myself to a shower. I hoped the baby would stay asleep, but if he didn't, there was finally another adult to cover for me. And as the next day was Saturday, there was no commute to worry about. Well, of course, the baby woke up, and my partner was absolutely livid. I was accused of being selfish, vindictive, unsupportive, and using the baby as a weapon to punish my partner for getting more sleep than me. I was called every curse word in the book, and when I asked why my partner at no point tried to pick up or soothe the baby, I was told that he doesn't have tits to put the baby back to sleep. So what would be the point? At first, I was equally angry at my partner for choosing to lash out at me instead of caring for the baby. However, now that I've calmed down, I've started worrying that I was wrong. While my partner's accusations were wildly off base, I may have been an idiot to just assume it would be okay for the baby to wake him, especially when the baby's nighttime care has historically been my responsibility. So, am I the idiot for assuming it would be okay to let the baby wake up my partner because I desperately needed a shower? Not the idiot. Even though you're a stay-at-home mom, that doesn't mean you're the only one with parental responsibilities. Letting your partner sleep while you care for the baby at night so he's not driving drowsy is a fine concept, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have to do anything ever at nighttime. And the fact that it was a night when he didn't have to drive the next day is the icing on the cake. Taking a shower for the first time in several days while there's another adult around is not a selfish act or weaponizing your baby. It's basic human hygiene that you shouldn't have to apologize for. Tell your partner it's time to start being a parent. How would he do this without tits? It's common knowledge that women change diapers with their tits. I'd go so far as to call it weaponized incompetence. Sure, he doesn't have breast, but sticking the baby on the boob isn't the only way to get them back to sleep. And even if it was, does he still not have a responsibility to at least comfort his child until the mom returns to feed the baby? Come on now. Stop acting like you're helpless in this situation. I bet he got perfect long sleep time Wednesday and Thursday nights away while you were doing 100% of childcare and couldn't even get a shower for yourself. You've given him way too much of a break on care duties if he doesn't even know how to pick up his baby to soothe it. Girl, stop allowing this person to procreate using your uterus. Please stop. That level of aggression would be an absolute deal breaker for me. This happened over a year ago, but this situation has still affected my family, and my mom won't stop getting on my husband's and mine, case even now. My father had diabetes, and his health was deteriorating fast. He was in the hospital and then got out. After he got out, he was weak and was trying to rest at home. I come from a big family with a lot of siblings. One of my sisters travels all through Europe and is frequently moving. I'm in the US, and I haven't been back to Europe in over a decade, but I talk a lot on the phone with them. We'll call my sister Anna. Anna suddenly moved into my parents' house with her husband and 8 children for an unknown period of time, and for reasons no one knows. Well, she had nowhere else to go, apparently. My mom is the closest with her and has always been sympathetic towards her, so she's fine with her being there. My dad was exhausted, coming home from the hospital just a day or 2 ago. My husband was talking to him on the phone and heard all these kids screaming and making noises. He asked if everything's okay. My father just said he's tired, overwhelmed, can't take it anymore, and just wants to rest. My dad talks to my brother, who lives there, and talks about the environment in the house. My brother said it was a disaster and pretty noisy since the kids were running everywhere. My mom, however, said that it's not a big deal and not that noisy. Well, we all just had a feeling my dad was going to die any day now, and these were his last months alive. My husband and I felt bad for my dad and thought he deserved peace in his last moments. My husband asked to speak to my mother, and she said, no, not now. So my husband asked to speak to Anna's husband. He said, if you don't leave this house by 7:00 p.m., then I'll pay for a rental home where he can rest his final days. It's not okay for this man to work all his life, and he can't even die peacefully in his own home. I'll be calling back to make sure you've left. They tried to talk back and downplay everything, but my husband really put his foot down, and ultimately they left. After about 2 days, my father had to go back to the hospital and died. My mother's still upset with me and my husband that he kicked Anna and her family out. She still comments to my husband and acts like we were really out of line and rude. I want to add that Anna was and still is building a new home near my parents' house, so they have some money. Am I the idiot for letting my husband kick my sister's family out of my parents' house? Edit. I just want to add, since there's a little confusion, that this was our last resort, since it's pretty big. But my mom didn't want to speak to us at all and always sides with Anna. She was babysitting the kids and ignored my father, so he was pretty much by himself after coming out of the ICU. But my dad was so weak and was mentally done. When my husband inquired about Anna's husband, he said, "Don't worry, it'll all work itself out." You are the idiot. It was not your husband's place to dictate what happens in other people's homes. You crossed the line. And how do you know that the stress of your sister and the children moving out didn't hurt your father in his dying moments? Why would he want the end of his life filled with family strife? Your inappropriate actions may have caused him more hurt, you fools. Not only that, you hurt the living people who were the ones that were there with him in his dying hours. You caused more stress for your mom, siblings, and nieces and nephews than necessary. Wow, how selfish of you. Imagine not being able to cook your own meals after a lifetime of cooking, not being able to drive a car, sign your name, write or wash your body, or convey your thoughts clearly. Your once strong body is a shell of itself. You have trouble walking or picking things up. Now imagine how exhausting that must feel, day in and day out. Then add 8 noisy young children and an unsupportive wife to that scenario when you're just trying to survive. You and your husband are not the idiot. At least you tried to give your father some peace in his final days. Sorry for your loss. Agreed. Your husband did the right thing. I've dealt with serious health issues, and I can't imagine having a bunch of kids around. When you're suffering, all you want is to be left alone in peace. Your mom probably needed their presence to distract her. That's my guess. Regardless, all you can do now is to say, "Yes, Mom, we know. You've told us multiple times," and change the subject.